Hi, this is Kendall Imes. This is my second case study over documentary filmmakers. Within the case study, it asks, what is a documentary filmmaker? Are they a friend, a journalist, or an entertainer? Within the case study as well, they discussed a documentary called The Farmer's Wife. In 1998, it aired on PBS. It was critically acclaimed and one of the most watched in PBS history with over 18 million viewers. It's actually a 6.5 hour long documentary. It was split up into 3 parts, filmed by David Sutherland. The subjects were the Bushcoders. Probably not saying that right at all, but that basically they were a Nebraska farm family dealing with dual hardships of keeping their family and farm intact. It gave a brief summary of the family and what went on during the documentary. They were a Nebraska farm couple, Juanita and Daryl, plus their 3 daughters, face daily hardships, all to keep the family and farm together. Sutherland spent 3 years and over 200 hours filming with the family, creating a documentary that would capture the impact of economic struggles on within a real American family. He actually interviewed over 40 families prior to starting filming with them, which shows basically his eagerness to show this side of this type of family. The documentary reveals the fight for their marriage and the family farm. One scene actually shows Juanita visiting a creditor for a 2-year extension on her already numerous loans to keep from losing their farm. At one point, there was actually a $100 difference separating them keeping and losing their farm. It almost seems unreal. $100 doesn't seem like that much money, but to this family, $100 meant the life and death of their farm. Sutherland didn't allow any narration throughout the documentary. He let the family and outside interactions tell the story. He wanted to prevent any kind of appearance of selfish gain. He wanted it to be completely honest and having the family just go about their daily lives without any kind of dramatic narrator telling the story really aided in the honesty of the film and reputation of Sutherland as a journalist. Here are a couple of photos that I just got off of Google. At the top left, you can see Sutherland filming a scene from the documentary. The bottom left shows the family during the time of the documentary, and on the right just shows them dealing with basically their economic struggles. Okay, so at the end of my case study, I was given basically a set of issue-related questions ranging from macro, mid-range, and micro, mid-range, and macro questions. I just took a couple from each one and decided to do my analyzation based off of that. So for micro, if you were the producer, would you have lent the family the $100 if doing so meant that they wouldn't lose their farm? What does it do to the story if you lend them money? And what does it do to the story if you don't lend them money? And what does that do to the family? Does having a camera present change the story? Do you think filming the meeting when Juanita asks the creditor for the extension on the loan changed the creditor's behavior? And does this matter? When, if ever, can a journalist or a documentarian become friends with those he has written about? For the mid-range questions, basically brings up kind of an ethical standpoint, I guess. Macro, is it possible to produce a documentary from an objective point of view? What should be a guiding principle in creating this type of work? Does a documentary need to conform to different ethical understandings when other entertainment forms like reality television and primetime magazine shows don't? So my analysis of the micro questions, so basically, if you were Sutherland, would you have lent this family the $100? You could have easily handed them over a $100 bill, and would you have done it? I said, morally, yeah, you would want to lend them the money. It's just $100, and for Sutherland and his production team, they could have easily gathered that. What does it do to the story if you lend them the money? By doing this, it actually compromises the rawness that the story represents. The success of the documentary came from the realness and honesty of the people in the family within the show. If Sutherland would have saved them from all of their financial problems, it would have lessened the authenticity of the documentary. And what does it do to the story if you don't lend them the money? It might pose some ethical questions from some people, like why would a successful producer or any of his film crew, why wouldn't they just lend them the money? It could make them seem kind of immoral or corrupt by not helping the family out, but it also provides a true substance and presents the real hardships this family was facing. What does it do to the family? This action actually forces the family to continue with their day-to-day activities, regardless of if there was a film crew there or not. So you see the real reactions and the real steps they had to take to fix this problem. Mid-range questions. Does having a camera present change the story? As in most documentaries, having a camera and film crew in your face can probably lead some people to act differently than they normally would. After 3 years of filming, I believe, based on the case study, that the family acted pretty normally throughout the entire thing. This, in turn, kept the story very much real. Do you think filming the meeting when Juanita asks the creditor for the extension on the loan changed the creditor's behavior? I definitely think that the creditor could have been influenced because of this. She wouldn't want to come off merciless to a farm family in need. This would lead her to grant them the 2-year extension. And without the extension from the creditor, it would have dramatically changed the course of the story. When and if ever can a journalist or a documentarian become friends with those he has written about? Building relationships after the fact would probably be a more professional route to take, again, to allow for as much realness as possible. However, different situations call for different circumstances. You might, in some cases, want to build a relationship in order to get the story. In macro, is it possible to produce a documentary from an objective point of view? I definitely believe this is possible. For most, I think it's hard if the producers or any of the other members of the production team have any kind of long-standing relationship, emotional ties, or any knowledge about a situation. It could compromise what is filmed and what is not filmed and what is viewed to the public. That is why it is vital for the duration of a documentary to probably not create any emotional ties. What should be a guiding principle in creating this type of work? Being the filmmaker, you essentially hold the most power. It can be a pretty level playing field, however, you ultimately decide what gets aired on television. You decide what to shoot and what to produce to the public. Therefore, you are also responsible for the ethical actions that take place. And does a documentary need to conform to different ethical understandings rather than other entertainment forms, such as reality TV and other shows? With documentaries, your subjects are basically expecting you to record their lives as they are. As real human beings with real lives and real stories, they're trusting you to paint them in a light that has been explained to them, not dramatizing it with any kind of narration or exaggerated stories. No twisting of the truth. And in reality TV or any kind of shows like that, people or contestants are volunteering themselves. They know what they're getting themselves into. They probably signed a contract that says that the producers and everyone has the right to anything that had been filmed, and they don't really care or want to respect the people going on those shows rather than a family in this situation. And this was probably the best source I found by Wanda Bershin. It was a question of ethics, the relationship between filmmakers and their subjects. She's a writer for the International Documentary Association. She provided great insight on what should or should not go on while filming. I found this source to be the most useful because she incorporates ethical concerns and how to conduct key scenes, but while respecting cultural sensitivities. Wow, I can't talk. And here are my references. Thanks for watching.